His story is more than just bike revs and leather jackets. He is fearless, charismatic, and uniquely able to navigate through the rough and tumble of the bike gang world. Christie's story is one for the books, and with the experience he racks up, he is like a walking encyclopedia of Hell's Angels history, filled with tales intriguing enough to have anyone on the edge of their cozy Harley Davidson bike. But how does a man who initially joins the club on probation rise to become one of the most visionary Hell's Angels leaders? How is it that even after getting on the FBI's most wanted list, he is still influential in the Hell's Angels biker gang? Well, it's a mystery we are more than willing to unravel together, so buckle up and let's hit the open road. Where the story began. Born in 1947 to Greek immigrant parents living in Ventura, California, George Christie Jr. is brought up in a loving, protective, and gentle family. While no one around him can predict his future in the bike club world, there's clearly something special about him as a child. However, when he visits Los Angeles with his father, his first ever encounter with a biker changes his perspective on the biker subculture forever. He notices that everyone around is paying attention to the biker, but the biker is not concerned about what everyone else thinks. In high school, his personality astonishes many, including his principal, who accuses him of cheating when he scores highly on an IQ test. In turn, this changes his entire perspective on life, and at the age of 19, he already owns a Harley Davidson Panhead, which is license enough for him to join a bike club. Into the biking world. After acquiring his first motorcycle for just $200 in 1966, Christie becomes a member of two outlaw biker gangs in succession, the Question Marks of Ventura and the Satan Slaves of Los Angeles. In these clubs, he is held in high regard, being one of the few outlaw bikers in America with a college degree. At this time, he is also working as an electrician for the Defense Department, and he marries his high school sweetheart, Cheryl. In bed with the Angels. Feeling the need to upgrade, Christie begins associating with prominent motorcycle members before finally moving on to the Hell's Angels in 1975 as a probationary member. Within the next year, Christie establishes himself within the club, and his prowess is rewarded with initiation as a full-patch member of the Los Angeles County chapter. His determination to quickly move up the ranks is clear, and according to him, he really wanted to make a statement of some sort. It really wasn't the thought of criminality, it was more an interest to rebel. It was a commitment.
Most burn real fast.
In the 1970s, the concept of bike gangs is still new, and rivalries are not established. As Christie recalls, conflicts are not taken all that seriously, and instead of getting out guns after a fight, the losers would just buy breakfast. One of the reasons Christie falls in love with the biker gang is their inclusivity. Despite him being married and having children, he is fully accepted. He carries out club duties during the weekends and at night as he is committed to family and work matters. But that doesn't prevent him from being elected to the chapter's president's seat just 6 months after becoming a full-fledged member. However, the Hell's Angels culture gradually changes with the establishment of more rival gangs. In the first brawl of its kind, which would change the history of the Hell's Angels, Christie and 9 other members are at a motorcycle swap meet in Anaheim when they are attacked by the Mongols. The Mongols attack the defenseless Hell's Angels in their numbers, but Christie and his friends manage to leave most of them with serious injuries before leaving. After that, the Mongols wear a patch reading California on their attire to show that they were the ones in charge. The Hell's Angels have to take serious action before the disrespect escalates, and in July 1977, they vote unanimously to defend their territory by all means necessary, even if it means declaring war on their rivals, who are not ready for what comes next. In the next 4 months after the vote, an escalation in violence leads to the deaths of 4 Mongol members and an innocent 15-year-old boy during various shootings and bombings around San Diego and Los Angeles. Within the first 5 months of 1978, Christie manages to oversee the establishment of 2 new Hell's Angels chapters, the Chatsworth-based San Fernando Valley chapter, approved by the Oakland Hells Angels leaders and formed by members of Satan's slaves who patch over in numbers, and the Ventura County chapter, which he subsequently forms. As things continue to heat up, he is fired from the Defense Department due to his Hells Angels connection, but he is already the most popular man in Ventura County, dominating its political and economic life. While his image in the county is admirable, in 1983 the California Organized Crime Control accuses the bike club of being the epitome of all outlaw motorcycle gangs, claims he denies, stating that it is merely a motorcycle club and a family. In efforts to further discredit the Hells Angels and depopularize them in Ventura, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, circulates a rumor that the gang plans to disrupt the 1984 Summer Olympics, set to be held in Los Angeles, by supplying weapons to terrorists for an attack on Lake Casitas, which is hosting water sports. The ATF even visits business people in the county with pictures of Christie and other members to try and discredit them and assassinate their characters. When word gets to Christie, the Ventura chapter raises the $3,000 fee for Christie to carry the Olympic torch for 1 kilometer through Oxnard as part of the opening ritual for the Olympics. Christie achieves the feat, and he is cheered on by numerous Hells Angels, Crucifiers, and Heathens Bike Club members when he arrives in a remote pea field outside Point Mugu. The Olympic officials are initially unaware of the donation check, which is signed HAMCUS, but when Christie calls to explain that he wanted the money allocated specifically for a Special Olympics chapter in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, he is told that the donations are not designated directly for local programs. He sues the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee twice, lawsuits which are both thrown out, especially as every document he submits is stamped with the Hells Angels death logo. With the controversies being aired on national television, Christie is now considered the second most powerful Hells Angel in the United States, behind only the international president Sonny Barger. He firmly denies the claims to avoid the attention on him, but is he a bit too late? On the radar and a close call. After the 1984 Olympics saga, Christie opts to lie low, but he can only do so for so long before Sonny Barger is diagnosed with throat cancer, loses his voice, and Christie has to become the public face of the Hells Angels. If the Olympic lawsuit had already brought Christie to the attention of local law enforcement authorities, becoming the face of the club did more than that. The attention brings the FBI to his doorstep, and a sting operation against him is launched in 1986. In need of someone to lure Christie into their trap, the Bureau assigns Michael Mulhern, a senior member of the Mexican Mafia and an FBI informant, to the case. Mulhern is told to make Christie an offer to hire the Mexican Mafia to kill Thomas Arthur Chaney, a former Ventura Hells Angel who outed the club's drug operations to the federal authorities and was being held in the Federal Correctional Institution in Safford, Arizona. Every conversation between them is recorded and delivered to the FBI, and Christie eventually takes the bait, offering Mulhern $500 and a 1973 Pontiac automobile for Chaney's head. Once the deal is on, the Bureau fakes Chaney's death, and Christie is arrested red-handed in the process of delivering Mulhern's pay in a motel room. Despite the numerous recordings and physical evidence presented, Christie has since maintained his innocence, claiming that the money was for old debt repayment and not payment for murder. However, once Mulhern gives his testimony in court, Christie seems to be in hot soup. However, his attorney is too good to be beaten, maintaining the argument that the authorities were retributing after Christie had accused them of harassing the club members and using the fame he gained after the 1984 Olympic torch relay to call them out publicly. Moreover, when the attorney puts Mulhern on the stand, everyone in the courtroom is led to discover his true identity as unlikable, insincere, and a pathological liar. As a result, the federal prosecutors are severely embarrassed, and with their case relying on their star witness, Christie is acquitted and he proceeds to host a party at the Hells Angels Ventura clubhouse in the attendance of the members of the jury that set him free. It also serves as a fresh start to a life he never imagined himself living. Fame, fame, fame. After his heroics in court, Christie becomes more famous than ever, and the reputation of the Hells Angels rests in his hands. His influence is felt not only in the towns but also in schools, where he is invited to speak at high school and college graduation ceremonies. This only makes his role in the Hells Angels more prominent, making him a media darling. With the Hells Angels' foothold in the U.S. increasing, the club files a federal trademark infringement suit against Concord New Horizons for producing a film with Hells Angels in it without permission, a case that is ultimately settled out of court. In all his interviews, Christie insists that the Hells Angels as an institution are not involved in drug dealing, and that any member caught engaging in drug dealing is thoroughly punished, even though law enforcement has a different opinion. A police officer in Ventura County even says about the club that they've taken the position right from the start that if they don't screw up in Ventura very much, there'll be no reason for the police to hassle them. And that has been pretty much the case. The Hells Angels locally have been involved in very few provable criminal incidents. The authorities also believe that by building a good reputation within the community, Christie ensures that the Hells Angels are too careful not to get caught, and if they are, they can get away with it. On his end, he runs legitimate businesses, including a tattoo parlor, a martial arts studio, a bail bonds firm, and a pornographic company. He also loves teaching karate and kung fu, which all create the perfect cover. However, it's only a short time before some fresh blood in the club begins to show themselves off, making them easier targets for the police and creating a major problem for Christie. Allegations and convictions. Despite already doing a good job of making the Hells Angels famous, Christie embarks on a journey to move the club forward and into the next century. And how does he do it? Starting with his 18-year-old son, George Christie III. He encourages a bunch of young boys to join the club, much to the annoyance of the older group. He even grants his son a full patch membership, against the club rules that he must have attained the age of 21. The police notice the young men constantly hanging around Christie, always dressed in skateboard style, wearing baseball caps backward and listening to hip-hop and rap music. In 1998, Christie's son and the younger group formed the Outfits, a group of teenagers who spread Vicodin, a highly addictive painkiller, in Ventura County high schools. The group is also tasked with watching the police movements and alerting the older Hells Angels in case of raids. The police effectively follow the Vicodin trail and raid Christie's tattoo parlor, the Ink House, his house, and his now ex-wife, Cheryl's house, where they find thousands of Vicodin pills, connecting the outfit to the Hells Angels and Christie. Christie and other club members are arrested, but the lack of cooperation between the sheriff's office and the DA's office sees Christie cut a deal in which he serves almost no jail time served for the Vicodin possession and distribution charge. For other counts, Christie only pleads guilty to possession of 2 grams of cocaine and methamphetamine and being under the influence of a controlled substance, which gets him 8 months of probation. Meanwhile, with his father's arrest and arraignment, Christie III gets a taste of how life in a biker gang can be, and he resigns to become a chef and lead a normal life. The draining case remains the longest and most expensive in Ventura history, and the residents are unhappy that despite the resources used, no one serves any significant jail term. The end of an era. In April 2011, Christie announces at a meeting that he is leaving the Hells Angels on the grounds that the club is too combative, which may lead to internal struggles. Having done more than enough to establish the club as a dominant force among other outlaw biker clubs, he is expected to keep his jacket with the Hells Angels patch, but he instead returns it, saying that he is no longer a Hell's Angel for good. However, claims later surfaced that he was forced out of the club, especially fueled by his successor, Scott Sutton, who claims that he retired because he was about to be expelled for abuse of power. Even Sonny Barger bans all Hell's Angels from having any contact with Christie, proving that there were other mitigating factors behind his retirement. Even in his retirement, Christie still rubs shoulders with law enforcement, having been arrested by the FBI over the bombing of 2 tattoo shops in 2007, with the intention of eliminating opposition to his own tattoo shop. He pleads guilty to one charge in exchange for the others being dropped, for which he serves a 10-month sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution, La Tuna. While he hardly speaks about his time with the Hells Angels, the 2013 documentary The Last American Outlaw and his 2016 memoir, Exile on Front Street, give a detailed account of his life events and his contribution to the club's fame, which cannot be understated.